look up almost any exercise on the internet and you will find hundreds of videos all claiming to have the secret to perfect form for that movement. Of course, you have to be careful in choosing the advice that you should be following. But in this video, I want to address a more important question: what is the correct form and why is it important? The short answer is your safety. Doing any exercise in wrong form can lead to injuries. Yes, you heard it right. It will also prevent you from getting the full benefit of your workout. And the reason has to do with the way your body functions. Most of the major lifts like squats, the deadlift, the bench press or the overhead press are also called functional exercises requiring your multiple joints and muscles to move in combination perfectly. That is why these are also known as compound movements. Compound movements place a lot of stress on your main joints in the body, the ball and socket joints, the shoulder and the hips, as well as on the knee, ankle and the elbow. And they call into action what is called as the law of torque. So before we get into the law of torque and how to generate these rotational forces, it is very important for us to know the anatomy of the hip joint. At the hip joint, we have the thigh bone or the femur, which goes into the pelvis like this, forming the ball and socket joint. However, this ball and socket joint has a lot of freedom of movement and hence it needs to be protected. The way it is protected is through a fibrous layer of ligaments, and the ligament encapsulates this particular joint like this. And when you don't generate any torque, what happens is that this femur has a lot of potential to move around in the capsule, leading up to injuries and loss of strength. However, if you generate torque and make sure that your ligament is squeezing the joint perfectly, it then can travel and can track your toes. And now let us understand the law of torque. For example, when you're doing a squat, your hip joint flexes to get into the eccentric phase of the exercise. During this time, the hip joint also needs you to get into external rotation to achieve excellent stability in the lower back region of the spine. Bring it to a neutral position and get your vertebrae properly stacked up upon each other. Imagine this. There are rotating plates under your feet, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to turn the feet and the plates towards the outside with your heels before going down into a squat. Simply put, the law of torque demands that when your hip joint is subjected to flexion, it should also rotate outward, not inward. This means your knee joints need to be pointing outward in line with your toes at slightly little wider than shoulder width, exactly above and in line with them. In this case, there is no shear stress but only compressive pressure on your knee joint. The shear stress on the knee joint leads to an anterior cruciate ligament tear, which is the most common injury that we find while working out or while playing sports. However, with the torque activated at the hip joint, the compressive pressure on the knee joint leads to the joint becoming stronger and resilient to gravitational forces, which is the whole objective of squatting. This is the only correct way to engage your hips and the knee joint in a squat. But if your knees point inward, then the joint comes under shear stress. This means your form is wrong and you may injure yourself. Follow me and I will take you through the right way to work out, clearly explaining the reason each and every time. And when you work out right, eat right and rest right, fitness will naturally follow.